Hey guys, welcome to Kaffenate Math. Today's lesson is brought to you by London. We'll be discussing the number line today. And to be honest, I get a bit sad when I think about the number line. It's one of the most unappreciated tools in all of mathematics. I mean, people tend to forget about it as life goes on, but it really deserves more recognition. So today is the day. We'll pause and give credit to the number line for what it has done for mathematics. Here's what we've got on the agenda. I'll tell you a bit about the history of the number line, some uses for the number line like visualizing numbers and identifying opposites, and then we'll see where it pops up in your world. By the time we finish today, you might even understand why the number line is so groovy. Okay, let's get started. We'll begin by going back in time. When I first started studying the history of the number line, I just assumed that it had been around since like the beginning of time. But no, it took until the 17th century for someone to come up with it. This is John Wallis, the brilliant mathematician of the 1600s. He's the one that came up with the number line. And even more surprising is that it wasn't used in classrooms until the mid-20th century. It was in the groovy 1970s that a woman named Lorraine Macmillan developed a physical number line to be sold along with a teacher's guide on how to use it. The National Museum of American History has this one in its collection. All right, so you're probably wondering, hey, what's so special about it? Well, let me show you. Up until the invention of the number line, it was rather easy to see positive numbers with either counting or measuring. But the negative numbers were just too abstract. Once we got them on the number line, it was easier. And this paved the way for the concept of opposites. Two numbers are opposites if they are the same distance from zero on the number line, but on different sides of zero. Take the number 4, for example. I can see that it's 4 spaces from 0. If I want to find the opposite of 4, I need to look 4 spaces on the other side of 0, -4. We can write these two numbers as a pair. We say -4 and 4 are opposites. Let's try it with the number 10. We see that 10 is, well, 10 spaces from 0. So the opposite is also 10 spaces from 0, but on the other side, -10. And again, we can write it as a pair. So here's a question. Do you remember what numbers make up the integers? In the History of Numbers lesson, we took a trip back in time to see how our mathematical toolbox of numbers has developed, and we discovered that the integers are the whole numbers and all the negatives that go with them. With the concept of opposites, we can simplify that definition and say that the integers are all the whole numbers and their opposites. Okay, now go ahead and ask your question. Where am I ever going to see this in real life? Always good to ask, and I'll tell you one place you see it all the time. Temperature. The number line with positives and negatives comes written right on most temperature gauges. As you may know, 0 degrees Celsius, or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, is the freezing point of water. 20 degrees above freezing would be, a perfect spring day. 20 degrees below freezing? Well, that's the average April temperature in Antarctica. Those are definitely opposites. Elevation is another example. Again, as you may know, 0 meters is called sea level. 10,916 meters above sea level is a nice cruising altitude for airplanes. The opposite of that is 10,916 meters below sea level. But few submarines ever go that deep. In fact, at that depth is a place called the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is the deepest ocean trench known so far. the exact deepest depth of the ocean is still unknown. In 1960, Jacques Piccard and Lieutenant Dalton Welsh of the U.S. Navy dove to a record 10,916 meters to explore the trench. I would never do that. But I do have a challenge for you. It's a question. Do all number lines show 0? You may want to say yes, because we just discussed the concept of zeros and it's based on 0. But in fact, other numbers can kind of act as a 0 point. It sounds confusing, but watch this. Let's say you have $100 and you want to invest it in the stock market. Your $100 is your starting point. You could gain an extra $10, which would be great, or the opposite could happen, and you could lose $10, which would be not so great. One more challenge question for you. Do all number lines go by 1 for each space or tick mark? No way. Just ask a marathon runner. Marathons are 26.2 miles long, and any marathon runner will tell you that the last 0.2 miles are the hardest. They would never want to be measured on a number line that only shows whole numbers because they'd only get credit for 26 miles. And that's it. You've been introduced to the groovy number line. We've learned a bit about its history, how we use it in math, and where we see it in real life. So as you're walking around today, see if you spot any number lines or any opposites. They shouldn't be too hard to locate. Thanks for being here. See you next time.